Join me on DraftKings. Go to Dr. T23.site. That is DRT23.site. Go ahead and click join me on DraftKings and get your $200 bonus bet when you bet $5 instantly on DraftKings Sportsbook money lines, totals, and same game parlays. DraftKings has the action. Welcome to our special playoff update episode. But before we jump into all the craziness that went down, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. And don't forget to tell someone to tell somebody else to join a win is a win. And hey, listen, I see you listen, but love it even more if you go ahead and hit the subscribe and that like button. I promise you, it won't cost you a thing. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the bell so you get your necessary notifications when a new episode drops. All right. A lot of action, a lot of action. NBA Final Four is set. So here we go. All series will go 2-2, 1-1, and 1. And the team with the best record will host games 1, 2, 5, and 7, of course, if needed. So that said, here we go. The Wolf Pack. Yep. The Wolves knocked the barbecue sauce out the Denver Nuggets. That's right. Coming back from the largest halftime deficit in NBA playoff history to advance to the Western Conference Final for the first time in 20 years since the big ticket. Now let's take a listen to what the coach had to say after the game. Let's see if we could get Chris Finch's sound up. Here we go.
Yeah, Chris, you're down 20 on the road in Game 7 to the defending champs.
Yeah.
Like what did you see from your guys that were allowed to pull this thing out?
I mean, the effort was there. You know, we just had to. Our offense kind of went sideways in the first half, and they really upped their defense. They were very physical, and we just talked about, you know, kind of getting back to simplifying our offense, if you will. I thought we were trying to over orchestrate matchups and mismatches and all this other stuff, and kind of played right into their hands. So we just had to get back to kind of moving the ball. We didn't shoot the ball particularly well, typical Game 7 in that regard. But, you know, even when we were, you know, down, like I kept looking at the field goal percentage, and we were in the 40s, in the 30s. Our defense was there. And then it went to a special place in the third quarter, you know, where we've been able to take it at times. And, you know, just everybody just kind of, you know, bucking up and making plays and executing the game plan.
So you have to think something key that Finch said in his presser was we made up for it on defense. Keep that in mind because we're going to jump back into that. Now, listen, before I get into the Pacers, that Gobert turnaround fade, drop the mic. The game, I'm like, oh yeah, nail in the coffin. Game is over with after that. If you didn't see the game, go back on YouTube and look at that turnaround fade. Thing of beauty from especially Gobert. All right, Pacers knocked the street meat, as Chuck would say, out of the Knicks. That's right, outlasting the Knickerbockers and Brunson. Pacers advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 10 years. And, you know, a lot of people had questions, and I even talked about this in 2 episodes ago where I said the more that Tibbs is playing his players to the point of failure, you're going to end up with injuries. And that's exactly what happened. OG Anunoby came in and left in 5 minutes like I did I can't do it anymore. You can tell that even though that the Knicks were leaving it all on the floor, they were tired. So, you know, for me, it would be interesting to see if any adjustments will be made, but we'll get into that a little later. Both road teams come back in game 7 to win. Now let's take a look at some of these numbers. So on the Wolves, you had Towns had 23 points, 2 assists, 12 rebounds. McDaniels 23 points, 1 assist, 6 rebounds. Gobert 13, 1 assist, 9 rebounds, and Edwards 16 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. Look at the rebounds. They were all over the ball. 12, 6, 9, and 8 balling. The Nuggets, Gordon 4 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds. Porter Jr. 7 points, 0 assists, 9 rebounds. Jokic 34, 7 and 19. Murray 35, 3 and 3. So already your 2 top performers were carrying the team. But your co-stars had an off night, had a bad game. We'll get into what Malone said after the game. But in game 7 in the NBA semifinals, you got to show up. Because when you leave it all up to 2, they're going to get burnt out. And although they're putting up 35 and 34, they can't do it all. So the co-stars didn't show up, unfortunately, for the Nuggets. And, Wolves come back third quarter when it was within 1. They never looked back. So, that was a good game. This isn't necessarily how Denver lost, but how the Wolves won. And I think that we need to focus on that part. Also, isn't it interesting? Jump in the chat and let me know what you think about this. Isn't it interesting that Chris Finch just eliminated the team that he put together? All right, I'm going to just keep going. Pacers, let's look at their numbers. Okay, so Halliburton 26, 6 and 4. Siakam 24 and 4. Nesmith 19, 1 and 4. And Nembhard 26 and 5. And then on the next side, we have Brunson 17, 9 and 0. DiVincenzo 39, 1 and 4. Hart 10, 5 and 8. And Hartenstein 0, 2 and 8. So, clearly DiVincenzo showed up. I believe Brunson was playing hurt. DiVincenzo tried to put it on his back, but with Hartenstein not really showing up at all in points, but did get some boards, you have basically the Pacers just outrunning them, outscoring them. And, what can you do at this point? You're going up against a Knicks team that is beat down to nothing. And by no means should we be making excuses as far as being tired and exhausted. But at the same time, there is something to be said about how many minutes and how hard the Knicks were being played by Tibbs. So let's take a listen. Mike Malone, here's my take. Malone had everything to say when they won against the Lakers, okay? Trolling at its finest. Who's your daddy? And all that chitter chatter. But, and before I continue, defending champs, we're going to win again and again and again. We're getting another one and another one from his mouth. And then we insert the word dynasty. How? I'm seeing headlines. Is the dynasty over? Well, when was it ever? They won 1 chip. Correct me if I'm wrong. A dynasty is 3 or more. All right, I'll leave that alone. But at the presser, he was completely, in my opinion, out of line. Once we listen to this clip, I want you guys to jump in the chat and let me know what you think about Mike Malone's comments at the presser.
Did you feel like there was anything that you guys got away from offensively in that stretch after you reached that point?
I'll have to go back and watch the film.
How hard is it just to absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20?
question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard.
So the part that was bleeped out was him saying it was a dumb ass question. And to that, I'll say it wasn't a dumb ass question. No, it was not. The reporter is doing his job. And so, therefore, he has a list of questions that he is supposed to ask after a game, no different than when any other team lost and they have to answer those hard questions. Or here's the alternative: the NBA needs to not have the presser immediately after the game. Let emotions calm down, let everything settle, and then come to the podium. But that's not how it's structured. And even still, there is a certain manner in which you are supposed to handle the press. Because if it was one of your players, it still wouldn't be okay. Or maybe the way that you're behaving, maybe it would be acceptable considering what we just heard. But you have to keep that same energy. So you were the biggest troll after you won, during the parade, after you took 3 in this series. You talked and kept talking. So the same way that you handled yourself and you are a certain way when the Nuggets were winning, you need to keep that same energy when they lost. And then he further goes on to say later on in the presser, my guys were just exhausted. I mean, they were tired. Oh, no, we don't give them excuses. Remember, tired or not, you're an NBA team. Better yet, you're the defending champ. So you thought everything was just going to be a cakewalk? Or you thought this was going to be a gentleman's sweep like the Lakers? You thought you were going to own the Wolves like you own, quote unquote, the Lakers? No, you met a match that you didn't expect. Everyone was tired. And here's something that I think that's forgotten. It's not just one team running north and south or east or west on that court. It's both teams. So if you're tired and you're up 20, think about how hard those Wolves had to play to get back from being down 20 and come back to win the game. So what changes are needed in Denver after this loss, now that they have time? What changes need to be made? Jump in the chat and let me know. I'll let you know really quick. I think they need more depth. I think their bench needs work, in my opinion. They don't have a bench. Look at the minutes that they play the same people. They need some help. Let me know what you guys think. Jump in the chat. You know, I think Tibbs, Knicks were hurt, banged up, tired, out of gas. And it's not for the lack of trying. They left it all on the floor. They put it all on the floor, hurt and banged up. So my question is, will Tibbs finally stop running his players in the ground? That should be interesting. Jump in the chat and let me know what you think about that. So what has been special during this playoff run so far? Well, in my opinion, I think defense is clear. It's clear. Defense has been up and it's been stuck in this playoff, these series. I mean, we have players on the floor diving for the ball. I mean, 4 and 5 and 6 offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. I mean, they are going all out war. And I also think that has a lot to do with the young talent that is now in the NBA. You have SGA, Okay, you got Anthony Edwards. You have all of these young players who are now playing a different ball game. So it makes the playoffs exciting. You're sitting in front of the TV. You don't know what you expect to happen is not what's happening. You don't know what's getting ready to happen when that tip off starts. And it's fun simply to watch. Stars are not necessarily scoring high points in every game. Nope, your star players are not, but they're getting it done on the defensive side of the ball. Just go back, look at the Mavs, look at that series, even look at OKC. Look at this Denver and Wolves matchup. War on the ball, war on rebounds, war fighting for turnovers. They left it all on the floor, which leads me to how is the league changing? Watching these playoffs, a lot of chat around that, a lot of topics of discussion around that. Euro players have come in and are the best, some people are saying, or U.S. players are lacking due to AAU. AAU is tearing up the U.S. players. Well, you have MVP Joker 3 times, Defensive Player of the Year Gobert 4 times. Some may say the people's choices are SGA and Luka. Euro players are not flashy, not super athletic, but they get the job done, adjusted to the U.S. game, or they just simply play their game. U.S. players, they play to the foundation of how the game was built. Grit, grind, in the paint. It's a bit flashier. They are a bit more athletic, but they still get the job done. Here's a question that I have for you guys. Jump in the chat. Let me know what you think. Things change. Does that style of U.S. grit and grind and the foundation of how it was built sustain? I think it does, in my opinion. But what is your opinion? Why do I think it's sustained? Because you all go back to the fundamentals of basketball. When the 3 isn't dropping, where do you go? You get low. You get down in the paint. You go back to your basic fundamentals. But you can't deny that the Euro players are special and they bring a different element to the game. So let's look at these matchups. The Mavs versus the Wolves, both defensive teams. I think the Mavs have the closers, and the Wolves are a bit bigger. So my question would be, if the Mavs are the closers, how well can they defend? And with the Wolves being bigger, how well can they score against a fast-paced Mavs, especially if you get Luka and Kyrie going? How well will they score? And how well do the Celtics and the Pacers match up? I think the Pacers are a bit faster. They're going to run you up and down the court. And we all know the Celtics, they're going to shoot your eyeballs completely out. They live and die by the 3. So jump in the chat. Who do you have coming out of the Western and Eastern Conference finals to get to the championship? I'll give you my picks. I have the Wolves in 6, and I have the Pacers in 7. Jump in the chat. Let me know what you think, and we'll be right back. Are you searching for some new NFL gear? Well, go to drT23.site. That is DRT23.site. Click the NFL shop link there. Enter your code NFL30 to get 30% off of your purchase. Let's get back to the show. I wanted to step aside from sports, if I may, for a minute and address something that we've all seen and that we all witnessed, and how it affected each and every one of us. At least I hope so. I'm taking the time to step aside from sports because I can relate to what we all saw Cassie go through with Sean Combs. So I would like to share something with the audience, if I may. It's a silent, haunting reality many women endure every day. Physical abuse is a torment that leaves marks not only on the body, but etches deep scars into the soul. These women live in a world where every bruise, every broken bone, every whisper of fear is a testimony to a battle fought in the confines of their own homes. Yet, they often remain quiet. The reasons are complex and varied as the women themselves. Fear is the most immediate and powerful silencer. Fear of more severe violence, fear of losing their children, fear of financial instability. Abusers often manipulate their victims into believing that their leaving or speaking out will only make things worse. They foster a sense of helplessness and dependence, stripping away any sense of autonomy. The threat of repercussions looms large, and the promise of protection from authorities or loved ones seem like a distant dream. Shame is another silencing force. Society is quick to judge, quick to ask, why didn't she leave? Quick to imply she must have done something to piss off the abuser. Victim shaming is a cruel twist of the knife, making women feel as though the violence inflicted upon them is somehow their fault. This stigma forces many to suffer in silence, terrified of the judgment that might follow their cries for help. And then there's the insidious cycle of manipulation by the abuser. An abuser's apology is rarely genuine, as we've seen the disingenuine apology, from Diddy. They apologize when caught. It is a calculated move to regain control when there's no other way to deflect the consequences of their actions. It's a hollow gesture, often followed by promises of change that never materialize. This false remorse can confuse victims, making them hope for redemption that never comes, further entangling them into a cycle of abuse. The psychological grip of an abuser is strong. They isolate their victims, erode their self-esteem, and distort their reality. The abuse is not only physical, but also emotional and psychological, creating a prison of fear and doubt. For many women, speaking out feels like insurmountable risk, and the possibility of escaping seems like a fantasy. In this web of fear, shame, and manipulation, many women endure in silence. They become adept at hiding their pain, wearing smiles that mask their suffering. They do this because the alternative feels even more terrifying. They remain quiet because they believe they have no other choice, trapped in a nightmare that no one else can see. Cassie didn't deserve what happened to her. Diddy doesn't deserve grace. For any woman that has been abused, get help immediately. Some of us walking around with smiles are hiding years of pain. There isn't any amount of makeup. There isn't the best profession that can hide nightmares that you have at night. But somewhere, somehow, you figure out how to deal with it. And I myself can attest to this. I learned how to deal with it. Thank you for listening to this special playoff episode. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Catch us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Thank you for listening.